felt, Catherine Howard was too great a risk to leave as queen. Her destruction had been complex and utterly thorough. She had been young, naive, and entirely outmatched. She had just turned 19. The only weapon she possessed, the king's love for her, had been no help to her because after her arrest and banishment to Sion Abbey, she was as far from King Henry as Cranmer could send her. Now she had returned to London, for but one day more. No one was to be executed on a Sunday. Her angry husband would show her some ironic modicum of respect, at least in that. She was led to the Tower apartments, and after the heavy rounded doors were closed and bolted behind her, she saw the room was lined with rich tapestries and heavy oak furnishings. The cavernous vaulted ceiling was ornamented with an intricate Byzantine fresco, but all the rest, wrought of old grey stone, was cold and Spartan. Catherine moved on trembling legs to the stone window embrasure and sank upon it, curling her arms around her knees. "I should like to go bravely." Her voice shook as she spoke, and she gazed in terror through the small oriel window down onto the green. As it had for Anne Boleyn, once again the scaffold had been hung with black cloth and strewn with straw. Blood. There would be so much blood that would flow into the hay and stain the block when they severed her head. Her mind filled with the terrifying image. Her heart throbbed, full of horror, fear pulsing with each heartbeat. She longed to cry out, "Cease this! Cease the madness!" Yet that would be pointless. Instead, she tried to calm herself with her own words. "If I am to lose my head after all, I should very much like to make a good impression." Both her sister Margaret and Isabel had been faithful to her since the beginning. Now they exchanged a glance, their faces pale. "Your Grace shall do your duty bravely, if it comes to that," Margaret said haltingly. "I think there is no other possibility now but for it to come to that. He will not see me nor answer my letters. He will not hear me at all." Catherine drew in a ragged breath. Tears fell in glittering ribbons down her cheeks. "Henry, my Henry, how gentle, how loving you could be. How have they made you believe the worst of me?" She pressed the unbidden thoughts from her mind. She had not wanted to believe he could ever do anything so barbarous as execute another wife, especially her. She had been different, devoted, when he was no longer young or strong or healthy. She was the 5th wife, but she had meant to be the last. Now she would die the same shameful death as Anne Boleyn. She too would soon be replaced. She had been only 12 when Anne had died, but the horror of it had haunted her sleep for years. How could anyone butcher his own wife, cut off her head so savagely? As a child, sometimes in the dark of night in the grim old stone manor of Horsham, she thought she could hear Anne screaming right before the axe fell. She would never forget the day it had happened. Catherine had been with her mother in their manor house on the edge of London, not far from the Tower. They heard a shot, and Catherine felt it down to her depths. It cut across the crystal cloudless sky, called out, then echoed as a hollow, deathly sound. Catherine glanced up and watched her mother's face. Her mother took her hand, her grip vice-like. "What does it mean?" the little girl asked, feeling the cold of her mother's hand. "It means that your cousin is dead." "The Queen?" "Cousin Anne has lost her head, and that is what the shot is telling the king, who has not the courage to witness the fate he ordered for his own wife." Catherine